I'm sure I want to start the stream. Now, let me just make sure the stream is started by refreshing my browser. And these are the glorious. That was a good way to start it with a massive sneeze. Okay, well, welcome and hi everybody.
Sneeze.
We're the Cosmic Crit Crew, and of course, somebody. Oh, there we go. We just had a video problem, and whenever we have a video problem because we use Discord, all the things shift around. So now Drew's video isn't showing up for me, and
that's okay.
We're gonna have technical issues on the fly. But thanks.
It's because I clicked the wrong button.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. We already have another follower who's willing to brave through our technical difficulties. Thank you so much for following us. This is where we're going to be doing a whole monthly, due to the Patreon, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of streams. But let me get to introducing everybody. I have a beautiful parody Patrick intro for those of you who watch the show. Patrick always does a wonderful themed intro, and I didn't want to break that tradition, so I have one here. But I didn't have it memorized,
no.
So I'm going to read this just like it was off the show and a script.
I can't describe how
good.
worried I am about what is about to come out of your mouth.
Proud you are.
No, it's going to be so great. All right, welcome to everybody who's here. Let's get things started. To my right, she never asked what the dwarf's name was before he tragically died 2 days from retirement. It's Rebecca, the breakout star.
Hello.
To her right, he's a friendo who isn't looking for freelance Starfinder work. Sitting at the head of our digital table is Miles with the big bucks. Say hi, Miles.
Good evening.
There you go. Continuing around the table, he's good. He's good for two things: yelling "get 'em" and selling trash compactors to contemplatives. It's Drew, avoiding a brain scan. Say hello, Drew.
Hello.
And finally,
I'm super laggy. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And finally, to my left, he's our NPC playing monster rolling Mr. Crits with a swoop hammer himself. It's Patrick coming in with the do. Say hello, Patrick.
What's happening, everyone? Look, I'm Tyler at the end, messing things up. Oh, boy!
No, Patrick!
Whoa!
You bamboozled me,
This is a perfect example as to why we edit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, this is why the show is not live.
Yeah, that's exactly why the show isn't live.
And now it's quiet.
I do apologize for getting started a little late, like 5 minutes before we were set to go on. My internet just dropped. Completely.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing for me to go do a bunch of technical checks. So if you see weird people dropping video, or if we all of a sudden just go away forever, I'm sure it's because my cats. Patrick, do you want to tell a little bit about what we're going to be doing this evening?
I was pretty surprised that we got through our first Patreon goal, which is to start this monthly live stream, which is going to be a whole bunch of stuff. But we want to do one right away for our fans. The Patreon launched today. If you haven't seen that, it's probably why you're here. But we're almost to our third goal. We're like $10 away or something like that. So we've been racing through them, and it's been a pretty
crazy.
Yeah. It is really crazy. I'm a little worried. I need to start making up new goals pretty soon. But it's been a whirlwind for these players the last week, because they've, gone from ending season 1 to finding out that we potentially will be playing with the season 1 Drift Rider characters some more, to today finding out that's going to happen like within the next couple of weeks, because you guys are out there supporting us. But yeah, thanks for everyone that's tuning in, everyone that's following us on Twitch. There's going to be a lot more stuff here on this channel pretty soon. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We don't have too much time, so I should probably stop talking. We can start talking to one another.
So I've prepared a few questions tonight. Obviously, if you have a question that you would like to ask somebody from the cast or Patrick himself, throw it in the chat. I am going to be laser-eyed on the chat, as well as I think Miles is already. I see Miles in there. Really quick shout out to Miss Render and Juvenile 19. Thank you for the shout outs and the highs. Shooting the Crit says that the first Patreon spending goal should be to boost my internet speeds. Thanks. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Again, feel free to shoot questions into the chat. I would much rather have people answer the questions you guys have. I also want to go over some of the Patreon goals, or maybe talk a little bit more about Patreon goals or what we have in store. A little bit to what Patrick was talking about is that this stream is part of a Patreon goal that we met extremely fast, lightning fast.
It was the first one.
Yes, and we already have a date set and an idea for what the next stream will be in March. I'm going to let Miles talk a little bit about that towards the end. But let's just go ahead and start some conversation stuff. I wrote down some questions. Let's start with I don't even know. Let's start with Patrick real quick. Patrick, one of the things that we didn't get to talk about in the our breakdown episode, our other postmortem, was
which hasn't released yet.
None of these questions are in that episode. I don't want to spoil people who are here live. But Patrick, of all the big bad evil guys that were at the end of the books, so which I'm not going to try to remember them all, but which one was your favorite to voice and to embody? I think you did a lot of great work with Null 9. I think you did a lot of great work with I keep wanting to call him Zavala, but it's Zavra. And but I'd like to hear from you. Which one of the big bad evil guys from the books was like the most interesting for you as a GM?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that all the fights I tried to make as interesting as possible. They usually are the boss fights for those books. I really like the end of book 2 in the Temple of the 12, where you had to fight Tahumin. And it's one of those things that he's one of the few bosses that you didn't like kind of meet or know about or kind of understood was working in the shadows too much. You got some of that from Rakawi, but for the most part, he was just like like all the cultists, a force of nature. So that was a lot of fun to play as. I loved all the bosses. That one was just a really fun fight because there was like explosives in the ceiling, and I think Alindra went down that episode. That was always exciting. If I can knock a player to the ground.
Yeah, those were any of the fights where anybody was reduced to 0 were terrifying for us.
Did Idris go down in that fight too, or is that the next book with the balcony and the
That was Zabra where Edros went down.
Book 4, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Nax saved Alindra's life in the Tahuman fight, but I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were. But anyway.
It was Knack and Raimi.
Oh, okay. Raimi may have helped a little bit.
Raimi out there
I brought
helping.
you back to life.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I'm the one
remember.
who gave you the healing serum.
It was a long time ago, okay? I think what happened is I was really shocked that Knack was actually useful on the battlefield for once.
What? Wow.
So it made it more memorable for me.
All right, well,
Someone please call the burn unit.
we're already talking
Call
a little
the
bit
fire
about
department.
this. I do want to say I really apologize if I butcher your names in chat. Just correct me and I'll get it right in the future. But I kind of going on what we're talking about. Mr. Regalos is question for the cast: which end boss was your favorite fight and why? Since we're already talking about this a little bit, I think we can just go right into that question. I know personally, I think my favorite fight was the Zavra fight. I loved everything from like the setup to him to the actual execution of the fight where he was up on the balcony. And I don't think any of the big bad evil guy fights gave me that sense of, Well, except for maybe the one at the end of book 6, but that sense of just like, what are we gonna do when Zavra falls and the Atrocyte comes out? That was a pretty, to me, that ranks up there really high. But what about the rest of you guys?
I believe the Atrocyte popping out after that fight had almost killed us. Oh, at least almost killed Adras and Alindra, and it fell to Andis, Raimi, and Nak to take down. Because Zavra had that crony that had did she have the double axes? Is that what I remember?
Dual wielding Kish axes.
Yeah, and didn't she crit me at some point or something? And that took me down and took me out of the fight. Yeah, it was bad.
For those of you who have read the AP, know that she was supposed to be in the prior antechamber, as part of a pre-boss fight. But I was like, nah, Zavra would have all his lieutenants right there and all his
oh, that's so evil.
Most dangerous. Yeah.
I was already scared going into that fight because he was a Solarian, right?
Yep.
So I kind of knew this is gonna be a real match for Alindra. She's gonna have a hard time fighting another Solarian, I think. So, and I was right.
And after that, we finally good. We've beaten these enemies. It's the end of the book. All right. Phew. And then all of a sudden that thing pops open and that Atrocyte pops out. And I believe that is the most we have ever cursed at Patrick on this show.
Oh, no. No. You guys do you not remember the second wall of force last month?
That only bothered Tyler.
Oh. That's true.
Speaking of which, I really liked the Saravox fight. I thought it was epic and a really awesome end to the campaign, and it was great.
There's not too many fights that went over 10 rounds, and deserved, in my opinion, 2 episodes of what's going to happen. I don't like necessarily super big cliffhangers mid combat. I don't know if we did any others on the show. We had a lot that were the combat is about to start, but not mid peril, as it were. But this one deserved it once that second wall went up.
Oh, it was brutal.
I think one of my favorites was the Zero Vesh fight, because I think everyone got to do different things during that fight. Rebecca got to crawl on the walls, and Andis got to hack and save Raimi from instantly dying, and there was just a lot of stuff going on in that fight that made it really fun.
Yeah. Real quick, we've had a lot of follows since we've just been talking, so I'd like to just quick shout out to Kick the Table, Dragon Elvish, the GM Source, and Juvenile 19. Thank you guys all for following. We really appreciate that, because I want this stream to be very successful, and this is it's so touching to watch followers come in live. And we have another question in chat. We'll just keep this moving along as we keep getting these questions. This is from Macaroni. For the entire crew and Patrick, which planet or location sticks out in your mind as the most fleshed out and interesting? Let's, I don't know, Rebecca, you answer this one.
That one's easy for me. Istamak.
Istamak is a good.
Yeah.
Is it Istamak or Istamag? I can't remember.
It's Istamak. I definitely pronounce things wrong all the time on our show. If you remember, I called Rakawi Rawaki for the first episode. I transpose letters all the time. I think I have a serious reading problem. Everyone, this is no longer a stream about the podcast. It's an intervention for me to face facts.
But no, I thought Istamag just sounded beautiful, and the descriptions of it, and even just the artwork and having the map of what the entire island looked like really set in my mind what it was like.
Even things like the I'm gonna butcher some of these because it's been a while since we played, the Chamber of Renewal and the Hall of Ghosts and all sorts of stuff like that once you got in there, you realized what those places were supposed to be, but they were fun spins on on the concept for what this presumably ancient culture, but also primitive culture would consider, just tied together very nicely. That book is probably, while I think that I like Absalom Station quite a bit. It's kind of the starting point to all of this stuff, and I love the cyberpunk style of it. Istamak is really, I feel like, where everything for our characters changed. You know, as we got through, I remember Raimi and Knack especially kind of not liking each other in game for a while, and nobody trusted Knack especially for a long time, and
rightly
Adras
so.
and hey now, and Adras and Alindra were still developing sort of the sibling relationship that they would kind of have, and Istamak is really where all of that fleshed out, and we became a full crew at that point. We worked together, we did a bunch of stuff together, and that is where kind of everything gelled.
Well, as far as the setting is concerned, I agree with you, Rebecca, on that. We could have spent a lot more time on the podcast on the island because there's so many cool little places detailed. I'm not going to make any promises with our Patreon timed exclusive episodes, but maybe we go back to Istamak. Who knows? I have some episodes.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a pretty big fan of Absalom Station, and I kind of wish we got to spend a little bit more time there. Like Drew said, the cyberpunk aspect is cool, and there seems to be this whole culture and compartmentalizing of how everything is on the station that we didn't really get to fully explore, and I think that would be something really cool to kind of either homebrew or go into maybe in the future, just because there's a lot going on there that we didn't scratch the surface.
Yeah, Absalom Station.
Yeah,
that's good. It was really, I really liked Absalom. I think my favorite would, I almost got to say it's Castrovel. I really liked Castrovel. I really liked the jungles of Yucalam. The fight with the elven statue, going inside of it, fighting around it, having to deal with the difficult terrain, the Uruk Stampede, all of those were really helped flesh that place out in my mind. I think it was really fun. I really like Castrovel.
Before we get too far into some more questions, but do put them in the chat. I have a couple of special guests here tonight that I need to introduce to you all. The players don't know about this. I don't think I've told anyone. But these are coming straight from Paizo HQ. Our two new friends on the podcast. Space Goblins, let me introduce. And of course, Cattywampus.
Cattywampus.
Aww.
Yeah.
Thank you to our old pal Dan Servo, Dan from Paizo Marketing, who sent these along. These are not regular goblins; these are space goblins, because you can tell they are wearing Starfinder koozies. It's like a onesie.
It's like a tube top.
That's how you know that they are indeed space goblins. They're different. They're very different. They're holding hands. They're best friends.
Adorable.
Yeah, these are great. These are going to be a feature on stream, I'm sure, that we do here on the show. I'll just put them in front of my face and talk like them. It's me.
Oh, gosh.
It's me, Bob Fuzzle.
Oh no.
Hey, it's Cattywampus now. Okay, that part of the episode's over. Let's get back to questions.
Patrick's gone through his comedy routine. Here's I like this question. This is going to be a bit of a controversial question, so I'm interested to see people's answers here. Kick the Table is asking, how do we feel about space combat? Good, bad, indifferent? I'll throw that out. I'll go ahead and answer first. I would fall probably under the indifferent category for space combat. I think it serves an important purpose in the world of Starfinder and in role playing. I mean, if you're going to do a sci-fi campaign, you kind of have to have space combat. But a lot of times it's just hard. It's really, really hard, and especially when it's in I mean, this doesn't pertain to the podcast so much, but when it's in Starfinder Society games, oh woof, it's not great sometimes. And so I like it. I like it thematically. I like the idea and kind of the image it plants in my head, but mechanically, I would like to see things maybe streamlined a little more, so that it was more of a maybe cinematic experience, and rather than like move it around on the hexes and have to worry about so many different mechanics and roles working together. But how does the rest of the crew feel?
I kind of completely agree with you, honestly. That's about where I fall with it. I think that it can be really fun. I think the first time we sounded frustrated because we weren't really sure how the rules properly worked, because this is our first time doing it. But as we went through the campaign and Patrick helped us streamline it, it got a lot more fluid. But I do agree. I wish it was a little bit more cinematic and a little more kinetic. But it's still it's science fiction Pathfinder. You have to have space combat.
Yeah, our just in the chat real quick, our friend King Sofa TV over at Shooting the Crit Twitch channel, which we're gonna post some links to, and you guys should follow them as well. Absolutely. A fan show that's starting about the Cosmic Crit podcast. They said, I'm thinking about turning it slightly into a skill check run, similar to when you were running from the creatures in the jungles of Castrovel. Yeah, I mean, the combat is basically already like a skill check thing, but I think why some people have difficulty with it is because you're only doing that one thing per turn, and then it takes a little while if, gunners and pilots take a while. But yeah, I don't know. I think it can be turned into skill checks, especially if you want to do stuff in your starships different from combat. Like, I would love to see in the APs if instead of a combat, you had to do something along those lines, like traverse a black hole or some kind of space anomaly.
Yes.
And maybe a giant space whale is chasing you in your goblin crew while that's happening. But I think the rules, as far as space combat go, it's like a completely different game in Starfinder. The rules are great for simulating a Star Trek-like space combat experience. As far as, like, did they nail that? 100%. I think the Starfinder core rulebook, with the errata of some of the DCs changing, is great. And that if you wanted to play a game that's just Starship Combat, you could. But what about Drew, Rebecca? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I agree with John in the chat, who's saying that Starship Combat is very GM driven. I mean, I agree. I think that the more comfortable the GM is with the rules and the way that things need to flow and can guide their players through the process, the better it's going to be for everyone. I think it's really difficult to just jump into if you don't have a lot of experience with it, which of course nobody does, because it's kind of like 12% of playing Starfinder is not the normal rules, So it can be really difficult for a group of players to kind of switch gears and get into Starship Combat mode. So if the GM can kind of guide them through that really helps in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rebecca and I were actually talking about this offline the other day, and she raised a very good point that I'm going to steal and claim as my own to sound more intelligent.
Oh, it's not the first time I'm sure that's happened.
Nope. It comes territory with this house. But basically, she was saying something along the lines of how everything about Starfinder is sci-fi, but there's a fantasy element to it. There's magic. There is this whole other element, and that is wholly removed from the space combat.
Well, I mean, Star Wars has a kind of a fantasy element as well. It doesn't come into those huge starship battles that often, except like
when Luke used the Force to
turning off the computer, the targeting computer,
to destroy the Death Star, that whole thing.
but like 99% of like the combatants out there are not using the Force.
But realistically, and this got me thinking about ways that the Starship combat could be just flavored up a little bit. And it doesn't have to be magic. I know they've had some starship weapons in some of the APs that will actually use mystic abilities to fire instead of the standard things. But just little things like the science officer has to roll computers. Knack was the science officer on the Drift Rider. He had nothing in computers at the start and had to put ranks in computers because there was nowhere else for him to go on the ship. It's just not necessarily the most ideal thing. But if you gave classes or themes different starship combat abilities, if you had if you were the outlaw theme, and that meant that when you were in the science officer position, you could jam communications, or you could jam something, or you got a bonus to that. Just something to flavor up. Like, do all soldiers get this ability when they're in a gunner? Do all technomancers get this ability when they're in engineering? Just something to kind of
I agree with you there. I think a 2.0 for Starship combat rules, or some kind of, I don't think it would need its own entire hardcover book, but like a chapter of one of their books where they just add in options would be a lot of fun.
For sure.
I mean, they've been adding in starships and like guns and things for a lot of their books, but it's hard because that's usually only about 10% of like a campaign in XP is like a starship combat, so you can't dedicate too much paper space in the game. But
I do like that idea though, because I feel like with my season 1 character and my season 2 character and even my SFS characters, I feel like I'm shoehorning them into a role in starships that doesn't really naturally fit. If they had some kind of, as part of their build, starship combat was a consideration there, or was tied back somehow, it might be more enjoyable for me. I might be able to get into it more, but for right now, it's like I'm just kind of trying to shove my character in there. So
imagine that a solar attuned Solarian could use a supernova.
Nice try.
As
everyone's guessing season here in the chat. Things like they've definitely given it away now.
Guys, we just gotta hold on for a little longer. Hold it together. Really quick, I want to interrupt the conversation just because we did have another follower, and I really like this follower's name. It was Bojangles, which kind of harkens back to a bad guy. I can't remember what his actual name was because we called him Bojangles so many times. Oh man, it was
which bad guy?
It was Jabert's penultimate bad guy. Darius Gilchrist, the Jangly Man, yeah, who became the Jangly
Darius
Man.
Gilchrist,
the Jangly Man.
Yeah, and then we teased him and called him Bojangles, but so that gave me quite a kick. I know we could talk about Starship combat for a long time, but I do just want to. We have.
Can we?
Yes, we can. But
will we?
But
do we have to?
We don't have. Lucky we've had other questions. We don't have to. We can move on.
We can move on. It's fine.
John 30041 did ask, which I thought this was a good question. If the operations manual, the character operations manual, had been out before season 1, would we have picked a different class, or were you all really happy with, would maybe those different classes have pulled you away from what we ultimately ended up playing?
I think they're fishing for answers about season 2. So
I think they are too.
Well, I think I can.
Absolutely are.
I don't want to speak for Jabert, who unfortunately couldn't be here. He's out of town this weekend. But I don't know. I think he might have looked at the biohacker very seriously for an Andis 147, which, of course, he ended up taking a level of. Yeah. But he wanted to play like a super intelligent character, and they can use int as their main ability score. So that's very possible. It'd be interesting to see Andis 147 as a level 11 biohacker and with a dip into mechanic or something like that.
Real quick, another question, because this is fishing. I'll say really quickly that a Dross, I might have looked at Vanguard kind of closely. James or Mr. E Legos shooting the crit has copied his question down further since we've scrolled up so far.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to get back to this one.
Yes, a question for the party before I go to sleep, so I want to answer it. What elements of your character were unplanned and grew out of roleplay that surprised you? I think we hit a little bit of this maybe on the episode that's going to be coming out soon, but we didn't talk too much about this, so I feel like we can maybe flesh out a little bit more. But who would like to start out here?
I guess the only thing for Raimi outside, and I've said this multiple times, he wasn't planned to be as grumpy as he came off in the beginning of the show. But I think, and I think Patrick wrote this in, I don't know how quickly, but the tying in of his story with Zero Vesh for me was a surprise and a very pleasant one. I thought it fit with the AP very well, and it fit his story very well. So that was something that I didn't really plan for his story to be so connected with the through thread of the campaign.
Yeah, that's one of those things that just kind of fell into my lap. And we'll talk about this more on our next week's episode, which is a full discussion of season 1. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have all the books when I started, kind of thinking about the character's backstory. I mean, I didn't have book 6 of the AP until we were at like episode 40 or something like that. Something crazy like 6 months later after we started. So a lot of stuff was changed on the fly, and we'll talk about that with Tyler's character. I basically destroyed everything I had for Tyler's background and changed it completely about halfway through book 2, if you can remember that. But what about Tyler, Drew, Rebecca? Anything else with your characters?
I'll talk
unplanned.
I can talk about what surprised the bejesus out of me, but it was Rebecca's character was her tattoos, and then the elven statue with the tattoos.
Like all of this stuff around Alindra's character that just became. We had no idea any of this was going to happen. It was just.
I mean, I wrote that character with tattoos in the shape of a constellation on her wrist before the books even came out.
Yeah, they were crafting kind of general character backgrounds and descriptions before the Starfinder RPG core rulebook came out, before we got our digital copy, like way before everything. So that was crazy.
Yeah, I did think going based off something that John 3041 is saying for Adros, I really did think that part of Adros's story was going to be chasing down the Dauntless, his old ship, and it never came up. And I'm glad until the very, 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 very end. And I'm glad we ended up telling a much better story, and now there's this this potential future story hanging over Adros's head about what to do about the Dauntless. And so but I thought it would take a much more centered role, and then when it did take the turn, I figured that Sonros, I wasn't even going to see him. I wasn't going to see him in this adventure. I thought maybe in the future, and then he clobbered me. Anything that has a swoop hammer, man.
I like turn 1 crits with a swoop hammer. It's my favorite, apparently.
Oh my goodness.
Drew or Rebecca, anything before we move on?
I mean, I talk about a good bit of this in our next episodes. I don't know how much I want to spoil that, but yeah. A lot of the surprises for me, like Miles was saying, came from what Patrick added to the AP that I just didn't anticipate. I mean, the whole thing with Feluria, I had no idea was coming, and so yeah. That's it for me.
I tried with everyone to have I encouraged the players to make mysteries that the other players didn't know about, like in their backstories, like something to be revealed, and maybe you grow as a team once your fellow characters find out about that. So there was a whole thing with an episode where Raimi reveals his background and things like that. But on top of that, I told all of you players that there would also be secrets that you don't know about your characters and will be revealed as the show went on, in some form or fashion. And part of that is I want to make it interesting, listeners, and I want to make it as equally as interesting for you as players, to have a fun, interesting experience with characters.
Sometimes that can backfire, though. Knack is really my first big tabletop RPG character, so I spent a lot of time on his backstory and how he was hiding things and things like that, and dropping little hints like so Knack takes a lot of culture. He learns a lot of languages. One of the first languages he learned was Sarcesian, and I chose that specifically because the Sarcesians live in the
diaspora.
The diaspora. Thank you.
Yeah.
And when we finally came across the Sarcesian and I knew the language, it was never questioned why I knew that language. It was never a thing. But
when you have that many points in culture, it's just like, yeah, you know the language. We get it.
I mean,
like 20 languages, whatever, Nick.
Realistically, I stopped taking languages because I just ran out of them to take. And
Just make some up.
Yeah. I had like 21 at one point, I think.
I saw a question for me, so I want to get to it from our good friend Tim. If I was a player in the campaign, what I have picked, I really enjoyed the Solarian class. I knew that it was awesome from the very beginning, so I definitely would have done some kind of Solarian. If we were just picking the core races that were in the CRB, I probably would have done something a little, I don't know, it's boring, but a Kasathan Solarian is kind of, there's a lot of synergy there for backstory. But I really enjoy the Kasathans. I think the Adarian kind of culture was very interesting. So probably would have gone with that, but who knows?
All right. I think this is a good question for actually Drew, Rebecca, and Miles. This is from Cody. He asked, has playing Starfinder influenced you to try other TTRPGs or games? You guys have, I think of our whole crew, you guys have played the least amount of TTRPGs. Not by much though, but I'm kind of, this was your, obviously, it's a lot of us our first full adventure, but I'm interested to see what you guys say about the influence Starfinder has had on your TTRPG worldview, maybe.
Well, I can say I really wish that I had the time to play Pathfinder. Prior to this, we played that Final Fantasy Pathfinder like homebrew thing. Which was fine and great and wonderful, but I would really like to try true Pathfinder and do an AP or something. I just don't have the time or the friends to do it, and all of my friends are here and they're busy. So, but yeah, I'd really like to try Pathfinder sometime. That's it for me. I like board games, so I have a lot more experience playing that. But
I mean. As far as wanting to play more TTRPGs, absolutely. I have bought at least 2 other core rule books. One was gifted to me for my birthday by Patrick, which was Kids on Bikes, and which is a really, really fun game. And I have not been able to get a whole lot in that because that stuff is 100% my wheelhouse, and I do have Henshin, which is the Sentai Power Rangers RPG that I've have nobody to play with. So maybe one day, as part of our Patreon, we can
have
do a
monthly
one
streams
shot
now, Miles. We
with
might be
that.
able to work that out.
But I definitely am interested. It's just a matter of timing, and like Rebecca said, the people that I would play with already I play with, and we don't have time.
Yeah. Well.
So I will also say that Rebecca and I purchased a copy of Not Today Evil, which is a TTRPG aimed at kids to play with our children. We played it. We have so far played it one time. Our son was kind of into it, but our daughter was a little too young to get into it. But
we should try it again, though.
Yeah, she's probably getting to the point where she'll be able to follow it a little bit better. But I would love to play a lot more TTRPGs. But again, it's just a matter of time right now between all of the podcasting that we do. I've just recently picked up, thanks to Humble Bundle, all the Numenera CRBs and a bunch of adventure paths and rule books and all sorts of stuff that I haven't even downloaded yet. I just have them now because I was like, ooh, click, and there they are.
Yeah. Well, hopefully one of the things that we'll get to do with this stream is get to experiment with a bunch of things. We have a lot of things planned for this stream that we're really excited about, and other TTRPGs might be a part of that if it seems like that's something that fans and listeners, viewers are interested in.
I actually have a question that I noticed that I think would be pretty interesting for us to talk about. From Casperk1, do you think you did more or less with Season 2 backstory because of how your Season 1 characters progressed? And we're going to dance around some of this stuff, but I can answer that. I spent as much time on my Season 2 character backstory, but it's a different kind of backstory. So I with Mac, I had a lot of like hidden things and secret identities and stuff that, to be honest, wasn't gonna happen in a show that is following an adventure path. And in my Season 2 character, I definitely tried to limit that kind of stuff to make it fit, be a little more fluid with what it could do with an adventure path.
Yeah, I was going to say with both of my characters, both Season 1 and Season 2, I've intentionally left them very open because I knew that Patrick would have a lot more fun filling in the blanks. So I think that makes for a more fun GM player combination story making if I don't have my character completely planned out, like every detail, and like I don't want to be married to any of that because I know it can be changed, So I've gone into both Alindra and with my new character that I will not name, with that in mind.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I did a lot of character work for Raimi, and I have a lot of background written for Raimi, and there's a lot of stuff that even didn't get into the campaign, and I had a really difficult time like saying goodbye to the character. I really didn't want to let it go. And Patrick also said that to make my background a little bit more open for him to play with, since we would have, it's a shorter season. And so I tried to give him more of a broader canvas than something so specific as Raimi. And I think I'm actually going to have a lot more fun with the character than I thought I was at first, because it was really difficult to let old Quindar go.
Yeah, so spoilers, not spoilers for Season 2. I've know everything about Season 2 already from the players, and I'm excited about everyone's characters. Miles, very excited about your character.
I am pretty excited about my character.
Season 2. I don't know if we have any other pressing questions, but do you guys want to talk a little bit about the Patreon, which when I last checked, we're still almost at our third goal. Yes. Oh my gosh, we're like $13 away from our third goal, which is 247, of course, for Clara 247,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Should have set these goals higher.
yeah. Well, the next goal is another thing that I want to do and get out there. I've been saving bloopers from our recordings for, I mean, since episode 1. I think when we recorded episode 1, I had a slip of the tongue and said something pretty overtly sexual, which happens all the time. I have a lot of bloopers like that. But we try to keep the show PG-13, so stuff falls by the wayside. Some of the bloopers make it into the episode. If it's us breaking about the cavity kids for like 10 minutes.
Cavity
kids.
But
Lord.
That'll be fun. Those recordings will be fun to process. We've already blasted through the stream, monthly Twitch stream, which you're on right now, and our first bonus story episode for the Drift Round. And I've got 5 or 6 ideas already pinned out, kind of planned and what we're doing. So we basically we have to play and record that and then edit it and get it out. But boy, oh boy, that's going to be pretty soon actually, because we did that in about 12 hours, that second goal. And then there's another one. We might have to do 2 or 3 this year, depending on how much support we get on the Patreon. But yeah. I'm totally down. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and the Patreon, I've put up, I'm showing some artwork here that is from the Patreon page. Right now we have our Goblin NPC artwork up, which to be a Goblin NPC at that level, that's just $2 a month, and $2 a month nets you. You're gonna be thanked on our crew member, which is just gonna be which is a wall on our website. Early access to all early announcements via Patreon, and you actually get a special Discord role called Goblin NPC. And $2 a month would really, again, we're chipping away to be really close to that blooper reel. I've heard some of the blooper reels. You want to hear these blooper reels, guys? They're pretty great. And yeah, Patrick, do you want to talk about some of the other levels?
So the Goblin one, I know a lot want to go higher than that to get more bonus stuff, but I understand that $2 a month is a lot for some people. So basically any announcements that we going live on Patreon first for subscribers, so you get into that. Our second level is like one I figure most people will buy into, Pronkin Patron, and that was the Skittermander art you saw, and that gives you access to any additional content that we make for the Patreon, the timed released content, as well as other goals and shout outs and things like that. But that's hopefully one that if enough people buy into that and Goblin NPC, it pays for a lot of stuff that we are going out of pocket for the podcast, from upgrading Tyler's internet service apparently to
my internet's fine. My internet's fine.
Upgrading everyone's internet service basically, so we can do more live stuff like this. But no, like hosting, Drew and Rebecca in charge of the website. They pay for some other services. I would have been doing it anyway, but subscriptions to things like Roll20. I think I have everything Starfinder subscribed through Paizo at this point. But a big one is last year we spent a lot of money on original art for the podcast, and we want to do more of that. Yeah. So I'm very excited about all the support we get through the Patreon, which is going to help us do more of everything.
Speaking of art, we probably should call out that all of our Patreon art is by our Discord member and good friend, Mistaken Potatoes. Just
thank you, Seth.
Knocking it out of the park with all of these. I'm glad we got to share the Skittermander early on Valentine's Day. It's
no, it's too perfect not to share last. give a little taste of some of these pretty cool pieces.
Yeah.
We were confused of what we were going to do. Like obviously Goblin Skittermander, you got to have those. Our next tier is $10 a month, and that's the Flanking Buddies tier, which gives you the is it fancy Marmalao? Morlamaw? Yeah.
I just call it Dope Walrus.
Dope Walrus. Yeah.
And now we've spoiled Miles' season 2 character.
Oh, dang it.
My name's Dope Walrus.
I would 100% play a Dope Walrus. I would be insufferable.
That's why someone already guessed
Your
that today.
character
Was like,
would die immediately.
Insufferable.
someone already guessed that all this artwork was just what we're going to be playing in season 2. So there's going to be a Dragon Can, more Lamar.
I mean, maybe we're not saying that's not what's happening.
I'm saying it's not happening. This is not the crew.
This could be a double bluff. You never know, guys. We're geniuses.
That would be a wacky
Maybe. Ooh, who knows? But the $10 tier, you get everything at the $5, the $2 tier. In addition to that, we're going to have some posts up specifically for that tier and above to post shout outs and things like that, things you want us to read on the air. And when people get a crit hit, we'll read some of those on the podcast, which I'm excited about. You can put in questions for the crew. You can say bad things about me, PG-13 things. But those will be a lot of fun.
We go into this all in depth in the next episode as part of our postmortem for season 1, where we talk about all this stuff that hadn't happened yet, and boy, that's going to be awkward to listen to.
Yeah. I am just really quickly writing down, and I'm just going to straight up steal an idea off chat, which is the Tyler as a bear, Mile as a walrus buddy cop story. It's going to be Patreon only.
You know what? If we get to $800, I would do a series of one-shots with you.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say that right now. That would be hilarious.
Just the two of us. It's a walrus and a bear. Just the two of us.
Only one of us has hair.
Just the two.
Yeah, see, we would be awfully insufferable.
Look at Patrick's face.
Have a great
Patrick's
time.
face is so disappointed. He's so done with
This is what we get every week. This is what you don't hear, is how mad he is at all times.
Yeah, you can't see the
Because it's
disappointment and
stuff like
disdain in the podcast. You'll probably be able to hear it in some of the bloopers. I curse every once in a while. It doesn't make it into the show.
Or just go silent like that. That's usually what happens.
Yeah, we when we first started recording, one of the best things, one of the hardest things to get through was for Patrick to do all the editing that he does. What really helps him out is if we're trying to figure something out, to just have silence, just nothing. It makes it much easier when he's cutting things out. And that's my anti everything. I hate silence.
Tyler's kryptonite. He has to fill every void.
So for
like
months,
he's water.
every second that there was a blank, I had to say something. I just started talking about anything. And eventually it just gets to the point where Patrick Patrick's like, shut up! Just shut up! I have to edit this all out! Clap, clap!
Oh, yeah, they don't know about the clap. Oh.
Yeah. One thing that gets when we do cut out bloopers or we have to take a break to look up a rule, that's going to take more than like 10 seconds. I'll do something for audio enthusiasts out there called clap clap, where I just clap twice to give a nice sharp peak in the audio waves, so it makes it easier to click and find it.
Or you just say clap clap.
a lot of the times it just turns into clap.
Well, it also makes it easier to listen to.
Yeah, it does.
But every time, without fail, I'll say clap or clap my hands, and you guys will say something afterwards, like that's what she said. Oh, it's so funny. Give Patrick more work.
Look, we are perpetually 5.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
howdy. Okay.
Maybe your ages added together.
I know we have derailed this a little bit. What were we talking about? Patreon levels?
Patreon.
Okay.
Yeah, and
What's that?
the last Patreon tier I can't talk too much about because it is a limited tier, 6 of 6 backers, and they've already sold out. They sold out in about 12 hours, and I apologize that there's not more of me. We might have more spots in the future, depending on how the Patreon goes, if it's super popular. But that is to play by Discord with me as GM. And for those, I saw some of the backers in the chat here. People in the Dragon Master tier to become a soul bonded player of the podcast. You're paying a lot of money, and you are basically funding entire projects for the podcast.
Yeah,
so
huge.
There's going to be some pretty special stuff for those people, and in addition to that, you get the other the lower tier benefits, which is really nice.
And if you are one of the 6 people who have already done that, thanks. You're pretty awesome. We are very flattered, humbled, and we appreciate it more than we could ever probably say. So, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting started on that tomorrow, so expect some posts for those 6 backers. And talking about what we're going to be playing, which is pretty exciting.
One of the things that we are doing for the Patreon are our new monthly streams. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the first one.
Yeah, so absolutely. Miles, go for it, bro.
Okay, so these monthly streams will be a variety of different things. Either we will, do what we did for the charity, where we watch us play a game, or we could be streaming video games, or we'll be doing a watch through of a film. So for the first one, I decided to step up and take the reins of the situation for once, and I'm going to be hosting a game show where all of our little friends here, or whoever wants to play, I know different people have different schedules, will be partaking. And the most important thing is, if you are interested in the streams, we really need you guys to do this live, because you guys are going to be the people who decide who the winners are. I'm not going to go into further details now, but the show is going to be called Cosmic Crit Presents AOE Answers of Effect. And Tyler, what's that date? March 24th?
March 24th, which is a Sunday, I believe. And we will, we haven't set up on a time. I don't think we know an exact time, but we will obviously, blast that out on Twitter, everything else, Patreon, so everybody will know what that is. And like Miles said, we'll run it for, it'll probably be an hour or an hour and a half show, maybe longer, depending on just how much interaction that we have with you guys. We have a lot of time, and we're happy to hang around as long as people are wanting to hang around and watch us disappoint Patrick. So we are very much looking forward to that. So please put it in your calendar.
Silly.
March 24th. It will be the next monthly stream, and Miles is gonna be our game show host.
Yes, and I
God's
just have
help
to say,
us.
I am counting on your support. Yes, your support.
Okay.
Okay. Drew's
Wookie
pitch.
Gunner in the chat asked, "Do we really trust the horror movie fan to run a game show?" And to that I say, we trust him about as much as Zoe. So
Yeah.
I think that's saying something.
I've known Miles.
I'm not sure
for-
what.
Man, how many years I've known Miles and how many years I have podcasted directly with Miles, and no, I don't trust him for this. He's going to
Wow.
destroy us all
Wow.
somehow. He's gonna do it.
I have a huge fondness for game shows, and I think it's something that is going to be very, very fun for everyone.
I agree with him. I'm giving him a hard time, but the idea that we have for this is going to be awesome. It is going to 100% rely on audience participation as we all compete with each other in a battle of wits and strength.
Before we get too far off the chat, we had another question real quick. It's one Rebecca told me about, but the question is from Tim, our friend Tim. What's the black poster, the big poster in the black frame to your side? I guess your left, or
This?
no, your right, our left.
Yes.
This one?
Other one.
This one?
Yeah.
That one?
The
This
video
one?
is lagging, so I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, that one, right?
So you might see a flame Doshko here. This is the Munchkin Starfinder poster that came with the Kickstarter
Yes.
Oh.
for
Awesome
Steve Jackson
poster.
games. So yeah, really fun game. If you like Munchkin and Starfinder, it's right up your alley. But yeah, I got a poster for it. So yeah,
That's pretty cool.
that's what it is.
I think that poster is great. And then I don't have a question from the audience. I have a question for the audience, and I comment. Thank you all for joining us on this stream tonight. We have one planned for next month, and we have ideas for the rest of the year. But what else do you want us to do? We talked about other games. Do you guys have any video games or things you'd like to see some of us play here on the stream? Let us know. You can talk to us in the Discord, put some ideas here in the chat. They're going to be very different, I imagine. I don't think we're going to be doing the same thing every week. Oh, no.
I want tea time with Tyler as an ASMR.
Oh, don't worry. We have some tea time with Tyler ideas.
Yeah.
Apex on PC is
Yeah,
what.
no Apex. No Apex.
No,
I'm
that
out.
sounds good. Let's get
No.
to it.
I can't run it.
I have to say to Wookie Gunner, so will you guys be using Patreon money to get Tyler a neck shirt? Tyler was one of the first people to own a neck shirt.
When the store went live, it was I slammed the button and I was like, "Next shirt, money, give."
Oh, no. Drew, Spec.
I don't even own a neck shirt.
I know.
Spec says play Link's Awakening to come.
Oh.
Twist
Spec,
our arm.
You don't know this yet, but The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening was my first Zelda game.
Aw.
I love that game for just I'm emotionally tied to that game. I played that game every long car trip that I ever took with my family for years after it came out. I will be buying that this day one. Second one that is available, I will be downloading it, and I cannot wait to play through it again over and over and over again because it's on a portable system and I'll be able to play it on so many.
Yep. Real quick, something I know Rebecca is going to be into. Juvenile 19 says board game night, and I can't think of much more that Rebecca would want to do than play Betrayal on the House on the Hill.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so it's all part of the plan. We just have to figure out how to make some of these things work on stream.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the key.
A lot of these
is making it work.
A lot of these things, you're just going to get a smattering of things, and then the stuff that you guys react well to is what you're going to get. Are video games going to happen? Absolutely. Are board games going to happen? Maybe via Tabletop Simulator, as Macaroni is saying. Absolutely. If we can figure it out and make it happen, we're going to make it happen. Is homebrew in different TTRPG stuff going to happen? Yes. Is FSF play going to happen? Yes. I mean, like, all these things are going to happen.
We already talked about some potential homebrew stuff that could happen live, and then maybe we edit it for the podcast later on.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, which I'm excited about.
Oh my gosh, Spectacat says we should play Monopoly. That's so mean.
No.
No,
Drew will
Ticket to
beat us
Ride.
all.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, all of our videos just went wacky, and then they fixed each
no.
other.
Oh,
That's okay.
no.
Whenever we drop video, Discord realigns all the videos, and so then it gets all wacky. Apologies as Patrick's video comes
And
down.
Discord closed
and if
on me.
anybody is
That's messed up.
questioning, yes, the poster that was just shown behind Rebecca is a poster of Batman signed by Batman artist Greg Capullo that I got signed with Miles at the South Carolina Comic-Con.
There are
3 years
pictures
ago.
of us together in the 60s Batmobile.
Yeah.
If we reach $1,000, I will put them on the website.
So, just a reminder to everyone out there, I don't think Miles has access to the Patreon. He's making some promises here. I don't know if he knows the password. So
Whether or not I have access to the Patreon, do you think that's going to stop me from making promises?
You guys are gonna make me die like the Cavity Kids.
Like the Cavity Kids.
So, no, nor Nick in the chat. I love Monopoly. I don't know if Discord quit on me because I was like screaming like, "Yeah, Monopoly's fun." I love competitive play, the way the game's actually supposed to be played and not with like house rules and stuff.
Yeah. By the way, free parking does not net you any money. That is a garbage rule.
So that's how we played growing up, and that's why games took like 5 hours.
Yeah.
No one wants to go bankrupt because that means you're out of the game, but that's how it's supposed to be played, which is a bummer. But
Can you play Monopoly with 2 players? Because if so, I want to pit Patrick and Drew against each other because I think they're the only people in the world that care about Monopoly.
An infinite loop of awfulness.
How about you can? It's not as fun.
How about we play good Monopoly and play Ticket to Ride?
I mean, I'm a huge board game fan in general, and there's a lot of games out there we can play electronic versions of. Like there's
the Buffy game.
Yes, I own it.
My dog's awake. Hey Ripley, how you doing?
I saw that in the background, and I was like, "Oh."
Rebecca, show a cat to balance the chat.
They're over there. Kitty.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can do digitally, including Ticket to Ride and Monopoly and things like that. So that's probably an easy board game to do.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So some of that stuff is definitely going to happen, and we'll
Hangman.
announce all of it as we get it scheduled and figured out.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to go over?
Frankly, weren't thinking that stuff would happen this fast, but here we are.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, for loving us.
Yeah. your $66 has really made my schedule exciting and fun. How dare you?
So I just have to say, I know it's been said before, but if you have any friends who play tabletop RPGs or board games or whatever, or you think that they would enjoy Cosmic Crypt, please send them our website or our feed and let them know they should be listening. We are always looking for more people to join our community, and we really rely on you to spread the word around. So
we're very excited about season 2. A lot of people couldn't listen to our podcast because they didn't want to spoil Dead Sons. Rightly so. We played through it and spoiled just about everything.
It was the first AP, and all the podcasts started playing it. You know, it happened.
It's a good entry point for players. So if you are playing it, or you know people that are playing it and I'll listen to the podcast because of that, our first episode of season 2 is going to start in a couple weeks. Feel free to send them that as well. And then once they get done, if you know of folks, I'm sure they will enjoy hearing about some of the differences that happened in our campaign. Obviously, some stuff went off the rails. And I think you're going to find that even with the official Paizo Dead Sons podcast being played by the Glass Cannon crew, they're about done with book 2. It's been a very different experience for those characters, those players. So it's really interesting to listen. Even our friends like Rogue Exposure and other podcasts that are doing Dead Sons.
Yeah, really quick, I do have a quick shout out for thank you for Questing Moon, who followed us a while back. I'm a terrible host, and I forgot to mention it because I got excited about stuff we were talking about. But thank you, thank you. And thank you to the Hidden Twig, who said that they are really excited for the homebrew content for the Drift Riders, which is what caused them to jump onto the Patreon. So. Again,
awesome.
Thank you guys for all of the support. I don't know. Do you guys want to answer some? I have a few more questions, or I mean, we've gone over kind of everything I wanted to go over.
Yeah, we've gone over the hour that we originally intended to spend here on Twitch, but I'm fine answering some more questions. I understand if you guys got to get to bed. It's a work day tomorrow, but
I'm good.
Let's do it.
Ask away.
Questions.
Okay. This was a question that was put out there by Wookie Gunner, and this was for Patrick specifically, and he asked, what part of the AP did you read and you just thought, I can't wait to get the players to run through this part of the AP? What kind of, were there any particular moments besides double force wall, because you're terrible, that stood out that stood out for you that you're just really excited for?
I mean, so many that I was very excited for you to get to. There was so much stuff with your characters' backstories that the integrations between them and the AP I knew were going to be amazing. All of book 2, basically, with Alindra's background. Once I had that book and saw that, you know, the ancient elves tattooed constellations on their body, I was like, what the heck? How did we presage that? I thought that was going to be cool, and I think I warned you, Rebecca, before that. I was like, this is in the AP. I did not make this up. Like this, the whole Stargazer statue, that's in the AP. I didn't add that in. So I was very excited for parts like that. Yeah, basically whenever we got to a big boss fight or a fight with like a big creature, the name escapes me now, but in book 5, the fight with the thing on the cover with 2 mouths.
The Jubsnuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot the Jubsnuff. I was very excited about that fight. You guys took that thing out in like 3 turns. I was like, oh,
I know that thing was so scary and cool. And Alindra ruins all the combats by killing things in 3 turns.
But then right after the Jub's death, what did we come across?
Oh, Atrocytes.
And then Cavity Kid.
That's right.
Oh my god.
Yeah, whenever stuff like that came up, I was super excited.
Oh, very cool. I did have a question for Drew, Rebecca, Miles. This is kind of for all of you, which was when you guys had to role play as Knack, Alindra, and Raimi. What situations did you find were the hardest for you to kind of get into character, into role play? What were the times you were just like, oh man, I don't even know what I'd say? I mean, I know I had those a few as a Dross, and I was just kind of curious what your guys's were. Getting into character, which can be difficult, especially when you're maybe coming out of combat, or there were whatever it may be, and Patrick is challenging us with an NPC.
There were some times with some of the major NPCs, like some of the conversations with Zira Vesh between him and Raimi, that I feel like I was prepared for in concept, but as far as what I felt would have been interesting dialogue between the 2 characters, I don't think I really delivered that. And so it did take some I don't want to say like soul searching, but like I had to really get into my character's head into how he would assess certain situations, and because, as I established at the beginning of the campaign, sometimes Raimi just shrugs his shoulders, and that doesn't translate to audio at all. And
we found that out pretty.
So
good.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning curve, at least for me.
So my answer goes back pretty far, but Jabraxa, I think was his name. I was really glad that Knack was with us and could do the diplomacy thing in my stead because I was not sure how to behave around someone with such a shady, I don't know, all the gang warfare just felt really Alindra felt really out of place in that kind of situation and would not have known how to approach someone like that. She had never come across someone like that. So I was very fortunate to have Nak in my party.
So I am a trained thespian. So of course, the things that challenged me when it came to the characters was everything. Mostly because every time I needed to do something in character, like a diplomacy roll or a whatever to talk to something, like my diplomacy is plus 27 or something ridiculous, and I would somehow roll a 2 and have to role play that and not be prepared to fail, not be prepared to that one. But realistically, for real though, it's weird that you think you're prepared for something playing a game like this and then just in the moment like and luckily 30% of those were edited out, so you didn't know that happened. But
yeah, no, there's actually a 7th member of the Cosmic Crit podcast, and it's the word it doesn't make it to air very often. He gets
Well, honestly, John brought up something that I had forgotten about when he asks, is there an NPC you thought would go somewhere else or be more than they were? And there was a couple in book 1 that I think that we had created by fans, and I didn't know how to react to them because there was specifically one in the Fusion Queen where, you know, Raimi's getting his dance on, he's feeling good about himself, and then someone comes up to him and starts this conversation like, I know who you are or something, and I didn't know how to react. I was dude, start dance. Yeah. And I wasn't sure. That was when I was really unsure of my RPing abilities because it kind of caught me off guard because I realized, oh, that was something that someone created, and I felt really bad afterwards that I didn't give it the proper attention.
Yeah, no, there were a number of NPC winners for that early fan challenge. We got to see a few of them. One of them attacked Nak as well, but that one I just wanted to throw in to give another like, oh, who is this Raimi that like other people might know of, and what's his backstory? And you played it like I think the character would, which would be like, I don't know you. Who are you? Get out of here, kind of thing. Which is fine.
Much to your chagrin.
Well, I mean, I expected something like that, or at least, you know, a little like, hey, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here.
Just get. But you told me like halfway through the campaign, it was like, your next character doesn't get to say no at all.
Well, yeah, as far as like improv rules go, it's I always say yes.
Yes, and so my answer to that question is but you remember that dwarf that Alindra just chopped in half, and everyone was like, "We were gonna talk to that guy." Yeah, I felt kind of bad about that. Yeah, sorry about that.
Can we be real with the real NPC that we thought was gonna go, but didn't? The realest of the real. Gavilar's Knorr was not the big bad of Dead Sons AP.
Of course he was.
Your guys' prejudices shone through insanely.
I don't think I ever
crystal
thought he was a bad guy.
I don't think he was a bad guy.
This was all Drew Jabert. They were like, I'm calling it now, flag in the ground. Like, you'll all be sorry come the end of book 6.
I will say.
And then you see the book 6 AP cover, and there's a dude who looks just like Gavilar's on the cover of the AP.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I will say I did think at some point Mr. McScruffins was going to be something else, and I'm glad he wasn't, because I was really hoping it was too tropey, and it seemed like what is this little puppy doing here?
Yeah.
And so I sometimes expected him to be something else, or turn into a creature, or be some sort of sentient spy. And I was honestly very surprised and happy that he wasn't, because I really did not want that story.
Okay,
aspect.
speaking of Mr. McScruffins, that was added by Patrick, right? Like, there's no dog in the AP.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course there's not.
Yeah.
I never trusted that thing.
I was never. Yeah, but you
Whoa,
trusted
that
you-
thing.
Okay,
That
okay,
thing!
Rebecca. You
Oh,
never trusted
well,
Mr.
Zoe.
McScruffins, but you trusted Zodi? Excuse
Yes!
me? Zodi?
I know where Zodi came from,
Get the
okay?
even more alien thing? I'm sorry.
GTFO.
Yeah.
So, Mr. McScruffins was really just inspired by one of the many inspirations for Starfinder RPG, which was the anime Cowboy Bebop, where they just find Ein, and it's now a part of the crew,
yeah.
and got into some shenanigans.
I
and-
love that so much.
Yeah, there's nothing nefarious about it. I don't understand you guys. It's gonna be like some polymorph like monster.
It's not that I don't trust the dog; it's that I don't trust you.
I think that the dog, Mr. McScruffins, came into the best use because of you had two goblin NPCs on board the ship. Bumfuzzle and Caddy. I brought them back. Just like in Pathfinder, goblins hate dogs, and I think it's because dogs hate goblins. I opened these up and we're getting them kitted up, and my dog was like, "Oh, I'm going to tear that apart. I'm going to destroy this thing." So I have to hide these. From my dog.
Well, to be honest, Mr. McScruffins was the Chupacabra, so...
Oh my god, they're so cute. These, you can buy these on the Paizo website. They are so cute. They are very soft and cuddly.
I want to do a quick update. We are $4 away from the next
Bloopers.
level, the blooper
Yeah,
reel.
blooper level. Yeah.
$4.
Yeah, I imagine we'll get there pretty soon. Thank you, everyone that has already donated. Those the Patreon charges are going to happen at the beginning of March, so you have time if you want to upgrade, you want to downgrade, want to turn it off completely. But understand that for those of you that stick around, there's going to be some cool stuff. Cool stuff that we're going to make for Patreon, timed exclusive that you get to see.
And cool stuff for us. I'm really excited. I mean, just the fact that we get to make more content and see more from the Drift Rider crew and all that. It's all very exciting for us too. So.
Oh man, and can you guys imagine all the cool episode art that Rebecca's gonna get to make when she has more than this pose and this pose?
Okay. Yeah, no, that's that's part of our goal. So yeah, thank you everyone that is backing or planning to back or wait until things come up in paychecks clear and things like that.
I just have to say thank you to everyone in the chat for being so concerned about Zodi. She is doing well, or it. I don't know what the gender is, but it is doing very well. They were inside of Alindra's armor and the whole time and did not feature in the epilogue, and I apologize for that. But they're doing just fine.
Because she forgot about her.
I'm sorry I didn't wrap up the Zodi
Saga.
plot. Yeah.
Look,
Well,
that's
blame
what the
Patrick,
next-
okay?
That'll be a
that's what the next
Patreon
Drift Rider
exclusive.
adventure is for.
Yeah.
We did it. They've done it. The blooper reel goal has been reached.
Yes!
Oh.
Let us all thank Speck the cat, who was the deciding payer. It seems like, as I see him in chat shouting "boom" and "you're welcome." So I'm going to make the pretty safe assumption that he was the man who pushed it, or he was the person that pushed it over. So thank you, and
They're a cat.
They are a cat. Yeah.
They knocked it right off the table.
Yep, and they did. Here's your pledge. Smack.
Nice.
So yeah, we have that to look forward to. I'm excited to hear these myself because although sometimes when Patrick is feeling whimsical, he will post some of the bloopers for us. We have not heard.
I think we're supposed to introduce some of them too, aren't we?
Yes, they will be produced content. I'm not just gonna post bloopers into the Patreon feed. They will have context, which is important for some of them, and they're not gonna just be by episode. I think they're gonna be themed. I can read you. I've been editing some of them and putting them in folders on my insanely cluttered desktop. Let me get to it. The folders that I have right now, there's one for each player and myself. So there's Bert, Drew. There's one just titled Miscellaneous, one titled Rules, where I think we argue about rules for a while. Another one called Not Safe for Work. A complete folder titled Muted Microphone. Which I think is just going to be like a super cut of saying, sorry, my microphone was muted. And then one is it's titled ampersand $, percentage sign, which is of course the comic book version of a curse word. And I'm sure that's
words.
very wordy dirties.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm excited to get to this.
Yep. That's so awesome.
I'm excited to hear them.
Yeah, this is great, and we've reached another goal in record time, a lot faster than I ever thought. So this is very exciting, and just make sure again, because this is the stream, so I do want to push the stream as much as possible. If you want to see more of our streaming shenanigans, and if you're here now but you weren't here earlier, we already announced when our next stream will be, which is going to be March 24th with Miles as host, as a game show host, and it will feature a large portion of audience participation. So make sure you follow us here on the Twitch channel. And make sure you follow us over on Twitch, because when we go live on the 24th, you'll get a notification in your email from Twitch, and we're going to tweet about it and a whole bunch of stuff. So just make sure you follow Cosmic Crit on all your social medias and places of interest.
I just want to I want to follow that up in, I know that some people sometimes are behind on the podcast purely because they are worried about spoiling themselves. This first thing, you do not have to have listened to an episode of the podcast or even be caught up on Dead Sons. Like, this is just going to be a fun game show for everybody. And it, like Tyler said, like I said before, it really, really hinges on audience participation.
And to those of you that think that Rebecca is perfect and never curses, have never seen her in traffic.
Oh, that's true.
Atlanta traffic, I think it break anyone of their southern manners. Really, and real quick, I wanted to point out Shooting the Crits link in the chat. You can click on them and follow now. They're a couple weeks out for March 3rd, I think will be one of the first episodes, and I'm going to be on it talking about season 1 as well as excuse me, the official announcement of the classes, what classes the players are going to be playing in season 2, and that's going to be part of our February challenge, which is where you guess the players' classes and races and things like that. So yeah, it's twitch.tv/shooting the crit. A couple of our fans are putting together a pretty awesome, Talking Dead kind of after show where we're going to talk about the previous week's episode. If I'm not on an episode or a player isn't, we're going to be hopefully joining in the chat to talk about things. A lot of Twitch stuff going on. Very exciting.
Yeah, and speaking of the fan challenge for February, if you haven't participated, you can go to cosmiccrit.com to find the latest fan challenge, which is guessing what race and class each of us will be playing for season 2. And your guess is literally as good as anyone else's. Nobody's doing great with these guesses, so go and take our quiz.
Can we link the guess in the chat? Actually, someone who is able to do that really quick. I wanted to answer a question from, and I'm so sorry if I'm about to butcher your name, but
I bet you are.
Alinea G, who is asking, will this video be available later? Yes, it will be available on Twitch. I do record these, and I want to be able to take them and put them on YouTube, so that people can just watch them whenever they want. But more important, Alinea G, you were the 100th follower on our Twitch channel.
Oh.
Congratulations, Alinea G! You win nothing except our respect and admiration. So you always will have that. And then we just got
For what that's worth.
And we just got another follow from, oh boy, Dire Squid J, I believe. Is thank you for being our 101. We can make a movie about you featuring dogs. Miles beat me to it. You butt. So thank you guys all very much.
Oh, people are asking about the January fan challenge. Patrick, you want to address that?
Yes, I've listened to a lot of the submissions for our guest star appearance. I don't have the winner yet because I want to pair the winner and figure out what we're going to be doing in season 2 at the same time. It will be announced towards the beginning of season 2, where we get to talk about the world of Against the Aeon Throne and the characters. But I will reach out to the winner privately in the next couple weeks, and we'll start working on that. It's going to be a very similar audio guest appearance that our good friend, moderator at the Discord, Classic Flavored Tim, did in book 3 of Dead Sons. But very excited about that. That was a challenge that was came from suggestions, I think, in our Discord or on our Twitter. So I thank you guys for that. It's kind of a hard one mechanically because there's a lot of really good submissions. But yeah, I'm excited. I really like integrating fan work into our what I call the Critterverse. Whether it be through the Monster Challenge, which I think was one of my favorite episodes of book 3, where we got to fight in the Eoxian arena versus a pretty scary monster, or the NPCs that you guys have created. I think the critical fail deck is probably the coolest thing this podcast has done.
Yeah,
we're gonna be doing more stuff.
So much fun.
More stuff like that with our challenges. And for those of you that enjoy the podcast, enjoy the challenges, part of your Patreon dollars are going to be going to giving more prizes out for those, because it's great. We usually do like $5 or $10 Paizo credit for a Starfinder thing or something from our store. We love giving out those prizes. I love giving people Starfinder and Cosmic Crit stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that money, all of that money has been coming out of our pockets for this last year, but now it's going to get funded by you all. So thank you so much for that. January fan challenge announced in a couple weeks, and then the February one will be announced a little bit after that, after the March 3rd stream on Shooting the Crits, where we announce the classes, and the other half of that, the races, will be the following week.
I got a few quick points in chat. Trooper is saying, who is JJJ? And back when we made the critical fail, we posted the submission, please submit to our critical fail deck on a bunch of different places, in particularly the Paizo forums. And boy, did he make all of his submissions were on the Paizo forums, and he made by far the most brutal crits, some of the most brutal crits we ever received. Tacking on to that, thank you to JJ7210 Cheetah for following us on twitch.tv. We really appreciate it. You're awesome.
Yeah, JJJ submitted, I think, only like 4 or 5 critical failures, but they are indeed some of the more brutal ones.
And they come up so frequently. I don't understand.
I think Patrick's weighted them. I think he's.
No, there's only about 30 or 40, I want to say, in our deck. Does that sound right, Rebecca?
I want to say there are about 60 of each
Oh,
flavor.
no.
So melee and ranged and spell, but I'd have to double check that. But it's something like 60.
Yeah, so I mean, if he submitted 5, that's like, 1 in 12 chances of getting them.
Yeah.
He's shown up way more than that.
Let's roll those dice.
The penultimate episode, just all of the nonsense with that.
Oh man,
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I have kept my East Coast friends far beyond what they were we had planned.
Yeah, look at the time.
Yeah, and so I feel like this is
It's
a good
too much fun.
I know. We have had a great time. Just one last time, if you have enjoyed this stream, please follow us here. We will obviously give you shout outs. Will we, really quick, JJ7210, Cheetah, will we ever make a new crit fail deck? Listen and see. Season 2 might involve a challenge to expand the crit fail deck. So, there's a lot of things coming. If you want to help keep the great content coming, head on over to Patreon, find Cosmic Crit, throw $2 down on the table, or however much you possibly can, and we will keep making things for you guys because that's what we love to do. That's it for me. Any final thoughts from my best friends?
No, just thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Going
you
up
guys
tonight.
so much.
All right.
Pangle wangle.
Pangle wangle.
Angle wangle everyone.
I leave you guys with the image of our Skitter art. We love you all, and have a great night.